Welcome back. As we wrap up October, we want to take a moment to discuss Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Every October, organizations and individuals unite across the country to uplift the needs, voices, and experiences of survivors. Rising Ground, a New York City human services organization, has supported survivors of intimate partner and gender based violence for over 40 years. Senior Director of Paths to Healing for Rising Ground, Stephanie Menyhay, joins me to discuss their efforts. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, can you give us a little bit more background on Rising Ground and the work the organization does to support DV survivors?
Oh yes, Rising Ground has an amazing Paths to Healing division which has numerous programs that support survivors of intimate partner violence and gender-based violence throughout New York City and all the boroughs, offering many different types of services throughout the lifespan, actually. We have community-based services. I'll start with that one because it engages part of the younger people that we do see. Our community-based services program provides individual therapy and group therapy and advocacy to survivors of all ages. And all of our services and supports for survivors are trauma-informed and anti-oppressive in a social justice framework, which is near and dear to our hearts. We really carry that with us everywhere we go, because that is our commitment to survivors and to ourselves, knowing that we make meaningful, intentional supports available to survivors in marginalized communities, vulnerable communities across New York City. As I was saying, our community-based services program offers therapy, and for 0 to 5, we offer child-parent psychotherapy. And then we also have in community-based services our GIRL program, which supports women-identified survivors and witnesses of intimate partner violence ages 10 to 25. And then we also have our economic empowerment program, which provides financial counseling to survivors. Our holistic healing program, which provides clinical-based alternative forms of healing, kind of challenging the traditional way we provide support to survivors, which is very interesting. There's Reiki, which is energy healing, sound healing, aromatherapy, grounding, yoga, meditation. It's so lovely. And it's a great source of support for survivors who aren't aligned with maybe the traditional therapies or not ready for that yet. We also have our Home Plus program, which provides a safety response alert to survivors to stay in their home rather than going to shelter. It provides a sense of safety for survivors to be able to contact anybody that they choose if they feel that they're in danger. And there's so many programs. We also have our Respect and Responsibility program, which is aimed to provide educational resources and counseling for people who have caused harm. And we have our Relationship Abuse Prevention program, which is our RAP program, which is school-based and community-based, high schools throughout New York City, providing education and counseling and workshops to young people.
Well, I want to touch on that because as we're talking about young people, and you previously mentioned that one of the programs allows for 10-year-olds to be a part of it. With that being said, I think it's so important that we're acknowledging children in this sphere. What impact does, domestic violence or intimate partner violence have on children, and why was it important to include them into these programs?
Yes, so there's research out there that shows that even in utero, babies are affected by intimate partner violence. It's very important to include that in your programming because intimate partner violence has a lot of effects on children. The impact can be broad depending on what children have witnessed, the severity of the abuse. And it can result in declining academics, outbursts, aggressive behavior, yelling, screaming, behavior that we don't understand as parents ourselves. And also, it could result in a child aligning with the parent that was harmed, or even the other way, aligning with the parent who caused harm. And it's important to address this because in a lot of situations, the parent-child bond is broken. So one of the ways we can address that in our child-parent psychotherapy model is giving the space, a safe space and an opportunity for the parent who was harmed and the child to rebuild that relationship and process the trauma together, learning coping skills, healthy coping skills, and getting the child aligned and back to the point where they can see their parent that was harmed as a protective parent. And that way, they can get back to being a kiddo while their parent, can grow and learn and also, help process with their child the trauma that happened.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the criminalization of survivors. Can you tell me, what that looks like and how it is impacting possibly the work that you do to help survivors?
Oh, our Criminalized Survivors program is amazing. It is one of the only ones in the country that is funded at a state and city level. So when we're working with criminalized survivors, we really do understand how when they are engaged with the criminal legal system, either through arrest or prosecution, conviction, their survivorship changes and they're now known to the public as defendants instead of survivors. And what we really want to do is challenge that notion and bring the attention back to they are survivors. So our Criminalized Survivors program provides individual counseling and defense-based legal advocacy to the survivors that are incarcerated at Rikers and also throughout the city. Really spending time and educating the public on how to view survivors, especially criminalized survivors, and kind of breaking away from the norm of what everyone thinks is a survivor and who is a victim. Just because they're involved with the criminal justice system, we have to make sure that everyone knows that they are a survivor and they should be getting the support that we would normally give to any survivor.
And with that, I kind of want to talk about, since we're just talking about this idea of being perceived as a defendant versus a survivor, what can we as a society do when we encounter survivors of domestic violence, especially when it just comes down to how we talk about it or how we treat people who are survivors of domestic violence?
I think that just being more open to our own ideas of what we see as a survivor, spreading awareness and bringing a narrative to that story of the survivor who was incarcerated. Understanding that there's different pathways that led up to being a survivor and different pathways that happen after you are a survivor. And making sure that organizations have more programs welcoming survivors or people that have a criminalized history, making services available to people who are, in probation or who have to wear a monitor, who are in their homes. Just making everything inclusive and available. And also knowing that survivors who were criminalized, also sometimes they don't feel safe or comfortable in normal settings. So to kind of give them a space for that as well, because they're trying to fight the perception as well, the normalized perception of being incarcerated.
Now, what are some effective strategies for promoting healthy relationships among teenagers and young adults?
Oh, I love our RAP program, a relationship abuse prevention program. So our relationship abuse prevention program focuses on educating young people in high school. We know that right now, young people, they're dating a lot, and sometimes they don't know what a healthy relationship is. So our RAP program provides workshops and counseling to teach young people, what a healthy relationship could look like, what gender-based violence is, how to recognize red flags, what toxic masculinity is. We have 16-year-olds who are talking about toxic masculinity, which is great. And we have just providing modeling and exampling, because we also know that teenagers are getting their advice and they're modeling a lot from social media and from each other. And we have to make sure that we can have the space with them where they are getting the correct information. So that way, when a peer comes to you, you're educated and someone told you from the RAP program, like, hey, this is, this is a red flag. Let's talk about this. Encouraging teenagers to talk amongst themselves about what healthy dating looks like.
And how can we kind of use this for older adults? Because I think that a lot of older adults are still kind of learning what a healthy relationship looks like as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the fact that our relationship abuse prevention program has been established in high schools, and spreading that information to adults, getting them more involved. Parents being welcome to the workshops and learning as well what healthy relationships look like. I think being able to be curious and starting the conversations and researching it with your young person, like kind of seeing what things are, because a lot of adults, they don't know what healthy relationships look like either. So also talking to your RAP coordinator, discussing these things, and really reinforcing what was learned in the RAP program at home and modeling it and just communicating with your teen.
Well, Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this very important discussion.
Thank you.
To find out more about Rising Ground and their programs, visit its website at risingground.org. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.